With Genshin nearing to end, well, in terms of the traveler's journey to find the 7, Genshin had progressed a lot, depending on when you first started playing. And while playing, we all had our fair share of ideas that we would like embedded into the game to make it more convenient or entertaining. So I thought of 10 things Genshin needs to add. And believe it or not, I had 2 things like Genshin literally just added to 5.0 on this list, so I had to go back and think of new ideas, and I'm already lazy as is, so that was not fun. But besides that, a little disclaimer, this video is just for fun. I know everything on the list has little to no chance of being added, but it's still fun to think about. So let's break it in and crawl right into this video. So the first thing that I thought should be added is permanent events. Now, I don't mean all events should be added, but just the important ones. Now, Genshin has this lovely issue where they decide to drop heavy lore into events, and then once the event is over, act like nothing happened for a while. Like when Albedo's evil twin shows up, or when A and Yai talk about an upcoming war.
But if nothing else, I know that we must avoid another war at all costs. The people cannot be made to suffer like that again.
Or even the summer events giving us hints on what's to come. An example, Simulanka tells us about Durin literally coming back, or last summer event where the people were Oceanids and foreshadow Fontaine lore, or even the first summer event that still has heavy lore people return to this day. But even if you could just watch all the events online, new players miss out on those experiences. And of course, I'm not saying this because I missed a certain event by one update. Anyways, tons of events have a bunch of character interactions as well from other regions, and it's nice to be immersed into the event. I feel like this concept could be done by implementing a session into the archives, which lets you select an event to play. This way it won't take up too much space anywhere else, and to make it even more fair, each event could be locked similar to how we unlock story events, with some type of key that you get from somewhere. Now, at number 2, I put a new character level cap, and what I mean by this is level 100 characters. And I know, you must hear this a lot, but let me explain. Genshin is getting pretty far into the story. I mean, we're in Natlan now. Unless the time I upload this, we are in fact in Fontaine still, disregard that. Anyways, endgame players need a challenge. Well, the ones at easy clear spiral at least. I mean, I've seen some solo clears with Natlan.
The tides beckon.
Now, with this level increase, it certainly keep players more busy, and on top of that, 100 is just a nice number. And with the level cap increasing, world level would also have to increase, and so would AR, but there's a significant amount of players that are at least AR 60 with millions of XP that could probably get them to AR 80 at this point. And while I am recording this, we also had a world level increase, so even more reason for a level cap increase. Although, I can't imagine how many resources would be required to do this. So, maybe a new concept for Ascension could be added. Well, it doesn't need to be completely new. I mean, they can copy what they do for ascending your world level and add it on to characters, like a character extension quest, but make it personalized for each element. And I generally say make it personalized for each character, but... And at number 3, I put character reworks. Now, this one for sure has no way of ever coming true, especially after the Nouvelette situation, but I personally think some characters need a rework. For an example, Razor and Xinyan. Now, I know almost any character could be technically feasible depending on how the teams and how well you build them, but characters like these will always be people you'd want to deviate away from. But some people would love to run them in their teams, and of course they'd always have the option to in the overworld, but wouldn't it be nice to run them in Spiral Abyss as well? On the other hand, I also understand that these characters are 4 stars at the end of the day, and can be treated more as characters for beginners, but still yet, characters like Bennett, Fischl, and Xiangling have been in meta for, well, years, so kinda cancel that out. 4 stars aren't the only ones struggling. As the Abyss is getting harder to some players as it's believed to be meta-based, meaning if you don't have meta characters you will most likely will not clear. With that being said, characters like Eula are falling behind and it makes it more difficult to clear, so honestly it would be at least cool to see maybe a kit upgrade. And I'm not talking about the current Spiral Abyss because this one's kinda easy, but I mean the previous one. Next up on the list is a new wish screen. A new wishing animation was something I was reluctant on putting on here as the ones we're used to is simple and straightforward, but I feel like more can be added onto it as well as increasing the overall excitement of getting a 5-star. Now we all see the videos of different people's concepts of a new wish screen, and I was personally thinking they could add a new wish animation to the limit time banners and keep the same old for the standard. I mean, character animations when they pop up, the sky having a different color depending on the element, Paimon laughing at you when you lose a 50-50. Okay, that was a joke. That may result in people breaking their screen. And it is in fact come to my attention that they did add a new wishing animation, but what I say still stands. Now for something that almost every player dreams of, new reactions. And I know this might be on every single Genshin list that you could think of, but hey, it would make the game more fun. Now, on the topic of reactions, this game could honestly do so much since it's based off elements. I mean, with Anemo and Dendro, we could have mold, fertilize, or even pollinate. Or with Geo, we could have erosion, but hey, why would we ever get reactions with Geo? That's silly, come on. And honestly, it perplexes me why Geo mains can never win. Well, minus Navia. Now, I also put test dummies, and what I mean by test dummies is, well, test dummies. I think Genshin should have some sort of simulation of some sort where players can test out their damage and showcase their characters. Instead of having to build their ultimates and go to the nearest boss, I think it'll be cool to have some sort of training dummy or simulation where bosses spawn of your choice and you can test out the max damage, or the max damage of your team. And the reason why I think it'll be cool is it's honestly nice to see people showcase their max burst damage or hitting big numbers. But some people don't want to go through the hassle of getting their ults or getting food buffs just for their character to somehow not crit, so I feel like adding a test dummy could help remove the burden of having to do all that. So next up, we have permanent events. Permanent co-op events. Now, I know I could have fit this in my whole explanation on why we should have permanent events, but I have a good reason why I didn't. No, I don't. So, I feel like this game could definitely add more activities for co-op players. A perfect example is Windtrace. You know, the hide and seek event where you get to see who really is your friend or who wasn't. Or any of the events on screen. They could even add new concepts like a dual spiral abyss where one friend completes one floor and the other completes the second. Because imagine how fun it would be to yell at your friend to hurry up and clear. And I personally think this would be like 10 times better than running around and completing domains with your friends 24/7, especially with how domains are and especially seeing how bad artifact rolls are. Not that mine are bad, I'm just saying in general, I'm speaking for the community, I'm not totally speaking for myself. And honestly, I feel like these co-op events would help people to become more friends, since Genshin players don't go outside. Trial runs with constellation unlocks. Honestly, this isn't something that would benefit me, as I don't think I'd see 6 a character anytime soon, unless I get rich enough, in which that money would go straight to Farina. But for the spenders, I feel like this would be a good addition to the game for anyone to looking out to test out characters with their constellation. Or for people who just want to test out how it feels to have a C6 character, or even people who have been saving for a while for a C6 character, even though that would take like years. Next up, we have more Spiral Abyss floors. So honestly, I feel like this would help endgame players a lot. Well, with boredom issues. But obviously the enemies can't get any higher unless they raise the level cap, so I thought of them adding weekly bosses to the fight. But I put some thought about it and people might lose their minds finding abyssal levels Arlecchino, so I had to scrap that. So I thought the Spiral Abyss could add completely alternate floors rather than adding floor 13, 14, and 15 with some ridiculously strong enemies. So in these alternate floors, they can add a new way to play, like hordes. And if you don't know what that means, basically enemies come in large groups and after you defeat said group, another comes in. And I guess Abyss already does this, but what I mean by groups is large groups. But this is just one idea I have. You guys probably have far better ideas than me, so feel free to comment yours. Now finally, I have replay old quests. Now what I mean by old quests is past quests you've already completed. Now replaying old quests is something I want more than anything in this game, and I'm sure the people who love lore can agree as well. A lot of players run through quests as quickly as possible to try and get the banner character before they leave, which kinda takes away the enjoyment from the quest, especially if it was well written, forcing them to search on YouTube to see what they miss. It would also be helpful to people who just want to do their favorite quest again without the hassle of making a new account, and by favorite quest, I mean the Inazuma quest. Sorry. And how would this be done, you ask? Well, you know, the archives book, you know, the one that I mentioned in the first part of the video. I think they could possibly add a section for quests and give you the option to be able to replay it. Now, whether or not this would be limited to Archon quests is kind of questionable, but... So, with that, my weird rant is over. Thank you so much for sticking to the end, and please make sure to leave a sub and maybe even a like if you haven't.